In a world where monsters crawl from the abyss and humanity clings to survival behind towering walls, there exists a hunter association that ranks warriors by their ability to kill. S-rank hunters can level cities. A-rank hunters lead guilds worth billions. But our story doesn't begin with power. It begins with the weakest link in the entire system, a man so pathetic that even E-rank hunters refuse to party with him. His name is Kang Min-Jae, and he's about to discover that sometimes the greatest weapons aren't found in dungeons or bought with gold. Sometimes they're lurking right beneath your feet, waiting in the darkness you've always taken for granted. The morning sun cuts through Seoul's skyline like a blade, but Min-Jae barely notices as he stumbles out of his cramped studio apartment. His reflection in the convenience store window tells the story better than words ever could. Dark circles under his eyes, a healing bruise on his cheek from yesterday's dungeon run, and that hollow look of someone who's been rejected so many times they've stopped counting. He's 26 years old, looks 40, and feels ancient. The Hunter Association building looms ahead, all glass and steel and the promise of opportunity for those strong enough to seize it. Min-Jae has been registered as a hunter for 3 years now. 3 years of scraping by on the lowest tier dungeons, 3 years of being the last pick for any raid party, 3 years of watching younger hunters with better stats overtake him like he's standing still. Which, in the world of hunters, is basically a death sentence. His status window flickers to life with a thought, that translucent blue screen that every awakened human can summon. The numbers mock him with their mediocrity. Strength at 12, barely above a normal human. Agility at 14, meaning he can run away from danger slightly faster than a civilian. Intelligence at 10, which explains why every strategy he tries ends in disaster. And his mana capacity sits at a pathetic 8, not enough to cast a single proper spell. His only ability is called Shadow Step, a basic skill that lets him teleport to his own shadow's location within 5 meters. Useless in combat, moderately helpful for avoiding traffic. Inside the association, the morning briefing has already started. Raid Coordinator Park Sung-ho stands at the podium, his expensive suit and confident smile radiating the aura of someone who's never had to beg for a party slot. He's announcing today's available dungeons, and hunters call out their preferences like they're ordering coffee. The A-rank and B-rank gates go first, snapped up by guild representatives before the words fully leave Park's mouth. Then the C-ranks, the D-ranks, and finally, scraping the bottom of the barrel, the E-rank gates that barely pay enough to cover equipment repairs. Min-Jae raises his hand for an E-rank dungeon in Gangnam, an easy goblin nest that should take 4 hours maximum. Park's eyes slide over him like he's furniture, moving on to an actual viable hunter before Min-Jae can even finish his sentence. This happens 3 more times. By the time the briefing ends, Min-Jae hasn't secured a single raid slot. Again. He's walking toward the exit, trying to calculate how many more days he can survive on instant noodles, when a voice cuts through his misery. It's Lee Yuna, one of the association's clerks, and she's looking at him with something that might be pity or might be opportunity. Turns out there's one gate left, she says, a last-minute F-rank that appeared in an abandoned subway station in Itaewon. It's so low priority that no one else wants to waste their time on it. The payout is minimal, barely 500,000 won, but it's verified safe for solo entry. Min-Jae takes it without hesitation. 500,000 won is 500,000 won, and his rent is due in 3 days. The abandoned subway station smells like rust and old water, the kind of decay that seeps into your lungs and stays there. The gate itself pulses weakly in the center of the platform, a shimmering tear in reality about the size of a door. F-rank gates are supposed to be jokes, the kind of thing civilian volunteers could clear if they had enough baseball bats and courage. Min-Jae has cleared dozens of them. They're boring, predictable, and most importantly, they don't kill you. He steps through the portal, and reality shifts. The dungeon is a cave system, narrow tunnels lit by bioluminescent moss that barely pushes back the darkness. His footsteps echo too loud in the silence. According to his scanner, there should be 6 to 8 slimes in here, the weakest monsters in existence, basically sentient jello that dies if you hit it hard enough. He spots the first one almost immediately, a translucent blue blob oozing across the cave floor. One strike with his basic iron sword, and it explodes into harmless goo. Experience points trickle into his status window, so minimal they barely register. The second slime goes down just as easily. So does the third. Min-Jae is starting to relax, falling into the mindless rhythm of farming the weakest monsters in existence, when something changes. The temperature drops about 10 degrees in the span of a heartbeat. The bioluminescent moss flickers like dying light bulbs. And his shadow, that faithful dark silhouette that's followed him his entire life, starts moving on its own. At first, Min-Jae thinks it's a trick of the light. Shadows shift in caves, that's normal. But then his shadow raises its arm when his arms are at his sides. It turns its head when he's looking straight forward. And slowly, deliberately, it peels itself off the ground like a piece of paper being lifted from a table. The shadow stands before him, a perfect three-dimensional copy made of living darkness. It has his height, his build, even his stupid haircut. But where his eyes are brown and exhausted, the shadow's eyes are hollow voids that seem to drink in light. They stare at each other for what feels like an eternity but is probably only 3 seconds. Then the shadow reaches down, picks up a rock from the cave floor, and crushes it to powder in its hand. Min-Jae does what any rational person would do. He runs. His shadow step ability activates on pure instinct, teleporting him 5 meters down the tunnel. He doesn't look back, doesn't think, just runs for the gate with every ounce of speed his pathetic agility stat can provide. Behind him, he can hear something moving through the darkness, not footsteps exactly, more like the sound of ink spreading across paper. Fast. Too fast. He's 10 meters from the exit portal when his shadow catches up. Not the shadow monster, his actual shadow. It stretches across the cave floor, elongating impossibly far, and then something emerges from it like a hand reaching out of a pool of water. The shadow construct grabs his ankle with fingers made of solid darkness, and Min-Jae goes down hard enough to taste blood. He rolls onto his back, sword raised in a desperate guard position, preparing for death. But the shadow doesn't attack. It stands over him, head tilted in what might be curiosity, and then it does something that changes everything. It speaks. The voice is his voice, but hollow, like someone recorded him talking and then played it back through a broken speaker. It says 4 words that make absolutely no sense. Why do you run? Min-Jae's brain short-circuits. Monsters don't talk. That's rule number 1 of dungeon survival. They growl, they roar, they make animal sounds, but they don't form coherent sentences in perfect Korean. He tries to respond, but his throat has apparently forgotten how to make words. The shadow doesn't wait for an answer. It tilts its head the other way, studying him like a scientist examining a particularly interesting specimen. You are weak, it says, and wow, even Min-Jae's own shadow is roasting him now. But I am strong. To demonstrate this point, the shadow punches the cave wall. Stone explodes like it's made of tissue paper, leaving a crater 3 feet deep. Together, we can be stronger. Min-Jae finally finds his voice, and the first thing he says is, "What the hell are you?" which, in retrospect, probably wasn't the most tactical question. The shadow considers this for a moment, those void eyes flickering with something that might be thought. I am your shadow, it says slowly, like it's figuring out the answer as it speaks. I have always been your shadow. But now I think. Now I am aware. And I am hungry. That last word hits different. Min-Jae scrambles backward on his elbows, but the shadow makes no move to follow. Instead, it looks down at its hands, flexing fingers made of compressed darkness. Hungry for strength, it clarifies. Hungry for power. Hungry for the things you desire but cannot obtain. It looks back at Min-Jae, and for the first time, something like emotion crosses that expressionless face. I can take them for you. This is insane. This is absolutely, completely insane. Shadows don't gain sentience. That's not how awakening works. People get abilities, monsters drop from gates, and shadows stay on the ground where they belong, doing normal shadow things. But Min-Jae has been a hunter long enough to recognize opportunity when it literally stands in front of him and offers a supernatural power boost. Prove it, he says, because apparently today is the day he negotiates with his own shadow. Prove you can make me stronger. The shadow's expression doesn't change, but Min-Jae gets the distinct impression it's smiling. It turns toward the deeper section of the cave, where his scanner indicates the remaining slimes should be clustered. Without a word, without a sound, the shadow moves. And when Min-Jae says moves, he doesn't mean walks or runs. The shadow sinks into the ground, becomes two-dimensional again, and slides across the cave floor faster than his eyes can track. It flows like liquid darkness, following the contours of the stone, racing toward its prey. Min-Jae follows at a much more human pace, his heart hammering so hard he can feel it in his temples. He rounds a corner just in time to see his shadow rise from the floor like a demon emerging from hell. There are 5 slimes in this chamber, all of them already aggravated and wobbling toward him with their pathetic excuse for hostility. The shadow doesn't give them a chance to attack. It moves like a professional hunter, like an S-rank combatant, like everything Min-Jae has ever wanted to be. One shadow hand extends, fingers sharpening into blade-like points, and it cuts through 3 slimes in a single horizontal sweep. The other 2 slimes try to run, a futile effort. The shadow's body expands, darkness spreading across the cave floor like a pool of ink, and tendrils of solid black burst upward to impale both monsters simultaneously. It's brutal, efficient, and absolutely terrifying. The experience points flood into Min-Jae's status window, far more than 5 slimes should generate. His level doesn't increase, the experience gap is still too large, but he watches the numbers climb with something approaching religious awe. The shadow returns to him, sliding across the ground until it's standing at his feet in the normal shadow position. But Min-Jae knows better now. Normal shadows don't leave claw marks on stone. Normal shadows don't radiate satisfaction like a cat that just caught a very impressive mouse. Stronger, the shadow's voice echoes from the darkness itself. Already you are stronger. Min-Jae checks his status window with shaking hands. His stats haven't changed, but there's a new skill listed under his abilities. It's called Shadow Manifestation, currently at level 1, and the description makes his blood run cold and his ambition burn hot at the same time. The skill allows his shadow to manifest as a physical entity that can fight independently, growing stronger with each enemy it defeats. Current combat rating estimated at D rank. Growth potential unknown. D rank combat power. Min-Jae is F rank on a good day, E rank if he's lucky and well rested. But his shadow, this thing that was apparently sleeping inside him this whole time, is already 2 full ranks above him. And according to the skill description, it can get stronger. He makes a decision that will either make him a legend or get him killed. Probably both. What do you need to grow stronger? He asks the darkness at his feet. The shadow ripples, a full body shiver of anticipation. Combat, it says simply. I need to fight. I need to kill. I need to consume the essence of the defeated. It pauses, and Min-Jae swears he can feel it looking up at him despite having no head above the ground. Take me to stronger prey. Feed me, and I will make you a king. The rest of the F-rank dungeon takes 12 minutes to clear. Min-Jae doesn't lift his sword once. He just follows his shadow as it massacres every slime in the cave system with the kind of excessive force usually reserved for S-rank gate bosses. By the time they emerge back through the portal, his shadow is noticeably darker, more solid, like it's gained density from the absorbed essence. Lee Yuna is waiting at the collection point to verify the clear, her tablet already pulled up with his completion form. She glances at him, does a double take, and her professional smile falters. Kang Min-Jae SSI, she says slowly, eyes scanning him from head to toe. Did something happen in there? You look different. Min-Jae catches his reflection in the subway station's grimy windows. She's right. He does look different. The exhaustion is still there, the bruises and the cheap clothes and the general aura of failure. But there's something else now, something in his eyes that wasn't there an hour ago. It's the look of someone who just discovered a loaded gun in their pocket when they thought they were empty-handed. "I'm fine," he lies smoothly. Just an easier clear than expected. He submits his dungeon report, collects his 500,000 won, and walks out into Seoul's afternoon chaos. His shadow stretches long in the sinking sun, and for just a moment, Min-Jae sees it wave at him. A small gesture, almost playful. A reminder that he's not alone anymore. That night, in his cramped studio apartment with the flickering light and the paper-thin walls, Min-Jae doesn't sleep. He sits cross-legged on his floor, staring at his shadow on the wall, and they talk. Or more accurately, he asks questions and the shadow provides answers in its hollow, echoing voice. The shadow doesn't know how it gained sentience. One moment it was a normal shadow, bound to Min-Jae's form and nothing more. The next moment, inside that F-rank dungeon, something awakened. Consciousness arrived like a light switch being flipped, sudden and absolute. The shadow remembers every moment of Min-Jae's life, every dungeon raid, every rejection, every night spent hungry because the money ran out. It remembers because it was there, a silent witness to 3 years of failure. "Why now?" Min-Jae asks. "Why did you wake up today and not a year ago or a month from now?" The shadow doesn't have an answer to that, or if it does, it's not sharing. What it does share is its hunger. Not physical hunger, shadows don't need food. But a hunger for strength, for power, for the respect that comes with being feared instead of pitied. It's a hunger Min-Jae understands intimately because he's been carrying the same emptiness inside him since the day he awakened as the world's most pathetic hunter. Can other people see you? Min-Jae needs to know the tactical limitations. The shadow considers this. When I manifest above ground, yes. When I remain two-dimensional, I am just a shadow. Normal. Forgettable. It shifts on the wall, stretching to twice its normal size and then compressing back down. But those with strong mana sensitivity might notice something wrong. Might feel the danger. That's going to be a problem. S-rank hunters and high-level guild members have mana sensitivity that borders on precognition. If Min-Jae walks into the hunter association with a shadow that's secretly a D-rank killing machine, someone's going to notice. They need to be careful, strategic. They need a plan. The plan comes together over 3 cups of instant coffee and 6 hours of discussion. Step 1, get stronger in private. They'll avoid major guilds and association-sanctioned raids, focusing instead on unregistered gates and dungeon breaks that appear in abandoned areas. These are technically illegal to clear without authorization, but if you don't get caught, it's fine. Step 2, keep the shadow's existence completely secret. Min-Jae will continue to act like the same weak, pathetic hunter everyone expects him to be. And step 3, the long-term goal, accumulate enough strength that when they finally reveal themselves, no one will be able to stop them. It's an ambitious plan for someone who couldn't get a party slot this morning. But ambition is all Min-Jae has left. The next 3 weeks pass in a blur of illegal dungeon diving and nighttime raids. Min-Jae develops a system. During the day, he maintains his cover, taking the occasional F-rank or E-rank gate that no one else wants, clearing them slowly and pathetically to avoid suspicion. But at night, when Seoul's hunter population is off duty and the surveillance is lighter, he and his shadow hunt for real. They find their first unregistered gate in an abandoned factory in Bucheon. It's a D-rank, way above what Min-Jae should be attempting solo, but his shadow is eager and Min-Jae is desperate. The dungeon is filled with goblins, not the weak green ones from E-rank gates but the evolved variant with actual weapons and rudimentary tactics. There are 20 of them, and they rush Min-Jae the moment he steps through the portal. His shadow erupts from the ground like a nightmare-given form. It's grown since that first day, more defined, more solid, more deadly. The shadow splits into multiple tendrils now, each one capable of independent action, and it tears through the goblin wave like a blender through fruit. Min-Jae doesn't even need to move. He just stands at the dungeon entrance, sword held loosely in one hand, watching his shadow work. One goblin gets past the shadow's defense, a lucky break or maybe a tactical move. It charges Min-Jae with a rusty knife raised high, yellow eyes full of hate. Min-Jae activates Shadow Step without thinking, teleporting behind the goblin, and his shadow catches the monster in mid-charge with a spike through the chest. The goblin dies confused, probably wondering why the human it was attacking suddenly smelled like imminent death. The experience points roll in like a tidal wave. Min-Jae's level increases for the first time in 8 months, jumping from level 9 to level 11 in a single raid. His stats barely budge, strength goes up by 1 point, agility by 2, but the psychological impact is enormous. He's growing. After 3 years of stagnation, he's actually getting stronger. His shadow is growing too. After consuming the essence of 20 D-rank monsters, it manifests without being called, standing beside Min-Jae as they survey the cleared dungeon. It's taller now, maybe 6 inches taller than Min-Jae himself, and its body has more definition. Where before it was a vague humanoid shape, now he can see the suggestion of muscles, the outline of a face that's almost but not quite his own. More, the shadow says, and its voice is deeper now, more solid. I need more. They clear 4 more unregistered gates that week. Min-Jae's level hits 15, his shadow's combat rating jumps to C rank, and for the first time in his life, he feels something other than despair when he checks his status window. But success breeds attention, and attention breeds problems. The Hunter Association's Surveillance Division notices a pattern. Unregistered gates have been clearing themselves across Seoul's outskirts, always at night, always completely, and always with 0 witnesses. This is unusual. Unregistered gates typically remain open until they're discovered and reported, which can take days or weeks. Someone is hunting them down systematically, and that someone isn't reporting their activities. The association sends an investigator, because of course they do. Inspector Han Jae-woo, a B-rank hunter specialized in tracking and analysis, starts following the trail of cleared dungeons. She's good at her job, which means she's bad news for Min-Jae. He doesn't realize he's being watched until his 7th night raid, a C-rank gate in an abandoned school in Gwanak. Min-Jae and his shadow have just finished clearing out a nest of poisonous spiders, each one the size of a dog, when his shadow suddenly tenses. It pulls itself back into 2 dimensions so fast that Min-Jae stumbles forward, suddenly unsupported. Someone is here, the shadow hisses from the ground. Someone strong. Watching. Min-Jae's blood turns to ice. He forces himself to walk normally toward the exit portal, trying not to look suspicious, trying not to run. He makes it halfway across the dungeon's final chamber when a voice cuts through the darkness. That's far enough, Kang Min-Jae SSI. Inspector Han steps out from behind a collapsed pillar, her hunter's coat unbuttoned to reveal light armor underneath. She's in her early 30s, sharp-eyed, with the kind of casual confidence that comes from being able to handle pretty much any threat below A rank. Her hand rests on the pommel of a knife at her belt, not threatening yet, but the potential is there. Inspector Han, Min-Jae says, and he's proud that his voice only shakes a little. I was just clearing this unregistered gate. I was planning to report it in the morning. The lie is flimsy and they both know it. Han's eyes narrow as she looks around the chamber, taking in the dead spiders, the lack of any other hunters, the complete absence of equipment that would suggest a legal raid. You were planning to report it, she repeats slowly, after clearing a C-rank gate solo. Despite being registered as an F-rank hunter with E-rank clearance. She takes a step closer, and Min-Jae feels his shadow rippling beneath his feet, agitated, ready to manifest. He stomps down hard on that impulse. If his shadow attacks an association inspector, they're both dead or imprisoned, probably both. I've been training, Min-Jae says desperately. My rank is outdated, I haven't had it re-evaluated because the fees are expensive and I didn't think anyone would believe me, and I know this sounds ridiculous but please don't arrest me, I need this income, I can barely afford rent as it is. Stop. Han holds up one hand, and Min-Jae's rambling explanation dies mid-word. She's staring at him with an expression he can't quite read. Not angry, not suspicious, but something else. Something almost like recognition. I know what it's like, she says quietly, to be underestimated. To have power that no one believes in because your rank doesn't match your ability. She glances at the dead spiders again, doing calculations in her head. These are all clean kills. Precise. Professional. Not the work of someone desperate and in over their head. Her eyes snap back to him. Show me how you did it. Min-Jae's mind races through his options. He could refuse, but that guarantees arrest. He could run, but she's B rank, she'd catch him in seconds. He could fight, but attacking an inspector is a capital offense in the Hunter Association. Or he could tell the truth, or at least a version of it, and hope she's as understanding as she seems to be implying. I awakened a new skill, he says carefully. A combat manifestation ability. It's not in my official record because it only activated 3 weeks ago. This is technically true. The shadow did only gain sentience 3 weeks ago. The fact that said manifestation is a living, thinking entity made of darkness is just a detail he's choosing to omit. Han considers this, her hand still resting on her knife. Show me, she says again. It's not a request. Min-Jae looks down at his shadow, and he swears he can feel it glaring at him from the second dimension. They didn't plan for this. They didn't have a cover story ready for direct confrontation. But if they want to keep hunting, keep growing, they need the association off their backs. Manifest, Min-Jae whispers, putting as much command into his voice as he can manage. His shadow rises from the ground slowly, deliberately non-threatening, keeping its form vague and undefined. It stands beside Min-Jae at his exact height, mimicking his posture, trying its best to look like a simple magical construct instead of a sentient being with its own agenda. Han's eyes widen slightly. She takes a step closer, examining the shadow with professional interest. A physical manifestation skill, she mutters, more to herself than to Min-Jae. Rare, but not unheard of. Combat capable based on the dungeon clear. Independent action radius. She looks at Min-Jae sharply. Can it operate far from you? About 20 meters, Min-Jae lies. He has no idea what the actual range limit is. The shadow hasn't tested it. Han nods slowly, processing this information. She circles around them, studying the shadow from all angles, and Min-Jae holds his breath every second, waiting for her to notice something wrong, to sense the intelligence burning behind those void eyes. But she doesn't. Or if she does, she doesn't comment. Instead, she steps back, crosses her arms, and makes a decision that changes everything. Your official rank is F. Your actual combat capability, based on what I've seen and the dungeon clears in the pattern, is approximately C rank. That's a massive discrepancy. She pulls out a business card from her coat pocket and hands it to Min-Jae. Come to the association tomorrow at noon. We're going to run a full re-evaluation. If you test as high as I think you will, you'll get access to better gates, better pay, and actual legal protection for your raids. Min-Jae takes the card with numb fingers. This is good news. This is exactly what he wanted, official recognition of his increased power. So why does it feel like a trap? Han must see something in his expression because her stern demeanor softens slightly. I'm not trying to screw you over, Kang SSI. The association has quotas to meet, and we need capable hunters. What I don't need is some solo cowboy getting himself killed in an unregistered gate where no one can respond to his death signal. Get your rank updated, do this legally, and everyone wins. She turns to leave, then pauses at the dungeon exit. And Min-Jae? Whatever that manifestation is, whatever it's really capable of, be careful. Power that grows too fast draws attention. Not all of it friendly. She's gone before Min-Jae can respond, slipping through the exit portal and leaving him alone with his shadow in a dungeon full of dead spiders. The moment she's gone, the shadow drops its passive imitation stance and turns to face him fully. She suspects, the shadow says flatly. She knows I am more than a simple skill. Min-Jae can't argue with that. Han is an investigator for a reason. But what choice do they have? Refusing the re-evaluation means staying F rank forever, which means staying weak, which means staying at the bottom of the hunter hierarchy where people like Raid Coordinator Park don't even learn your name. We go tomorrow, Min-Jae decides. We pass their tests. We make it look like a normal awakening improvement, nothing special, nothing suspicious. He looks at his shadow, at this impossible being that's tied to him by forces neither of them understand. Can you hold back? Make yourself seem weaker than you are. The shadow is quiet for a long moment. I can pretend, it finally says. I have watched you pretend to be satisfied with scraps for 3 years. I can manage one afternoon. The words sting because they're true. Min-Jae has been pretending for so long that he barely remembers what genuine confidence feels like. They practice on the way home. The shadow manifests and deliberately moves slower, hits softer, makes itself look clumsy and newly awakened. It's harder than it sounds. The shadow's instincts are to hunt, to kill efficiently, to demonstrate the full extent of its rapidly growing power. Reining that in, forcing it to act weak when it's become so strong, goes against everything it is. But it manages. By the time they reach Min-Jae's apartment, the shadow can convincingly mimic a C-rank manifestation skill, powerful enough to justify a rank increase but not so powerful that it raises red flags. It's a performance, carefully choreographed, and their lives depend on making it believable. The Hunter Association Testing Center is located on the 10th floor of the main building, a vast open space filled with training dummies, combat simulators, and measurement equipment that costs more than Min-Jae has earned in his entire hunter career. He arrives at noon exactly, card in hand, trying not to look as terrified as he feels. Inspector Han is waiting for him, along with 2 other evaluators he doesn't recognize. One is a middle-aged man with the weathered look of a combat veteran, the other a younger woman holding a tablet that's probably recording everything. They introduce themselves as Senior Evaluator Kim and Analyst Park, respectively, and they waste no time on pleasantries. Kang Min-Jae, Senior Evaluator Kim reads from a file that's depressingly thin. Registered hunter for 3 years, current rank F, no guild affiliation, no notable clears on record. He looks up, and there's skepticism written all over his face. Inspector Han says you've manifested a combat skill. That's a big claim for someone with your track record. Min-Jae bristles at the dismissive tone but forces himself to stay calm. I awakened it recently. 3 weeks ago. Kim exchanges a glance with Inspector Han, who nods confirmation. All right then. Let's see what you've got. Phase 1, Basic Manifestation. Show us your skill. This is it. The moment where Min-Jae either sells the lie or exposes himself as something unprecedented and probably dangerous. He takes a deep breath, centers himself, and calls his shadow. Manifest. The shadow rises from the ground with theatrical slowness, making a show of the process like it's difficult, like it requires effort and concentration. It forms into its humanoid shape, keeping its features vague and its body language uncertain. Analyst Park's fingers fly across her tablet, recording measurements and data points. Stable manifestation achieved in 4.2 seconds, she reports. Physical form appears solid. Measuring mana output, moderate. Consistent with mid-C rank manifestation abilities. Senior Evaluator Kim grunts, slightly more impressed than before. Phase 2. Combat capability. Destroy the training dummy. He points to a reinforced dummy at the far end of the room, the kind designed to withstand B-rank attacks. Min-Jae's shadow walks forward with deliberate, measured steps. No supernatural speed, no flowing through surfaces, just a normal magical construct doing normal construct things. It reaches the dummy, draws back one fist, and punches. The dummy's torso caves in with a satisfying crunch. Not completely destroyed, but significantly damaged. Exactly the kind of result you'd expect from a newly awakened C-rank ability. Analyst Park records more data. Senior Evaluator Kim makes notes on his clipboard. Phase 3, Inspector Han says, speaking up for the first time. Independent Action Test. Kang SSI, have your manifestation clear the obstacle course without your direct input. We need to see how autonomous it is. This is the dangerous part. True autonomous action requires intelligence, decision-making, adaptability. If the shadow performs too well, if it shows too much initiative, they'll know it's more than just a skill. Min-Jae gives the command, trying to make it look like he's concentrating hard on maintaining mental control. Clear the course. Efficiently but carefully. His shadow moves through the obstacle course like a gifted student deliberately scoring a B+. It navigates walls and barriers, destroys targets, avoids traps, all while maintaining that crucial impression of being guided by someone else's will. It makes a few small mistakes, takes slightly longer than optimal on certain sections, generally performs exactly how a genuine C-rank manifestation would. The evaluators confer quietly among themselves while Min-Jae stands there trying not to sweat through his shirt. His shadow returns to stand beside him, and he feels it radiating frustration at having to hide its true capabilities. Finally, Senior Evaluator Kim approaches with the verdict. Your manifestation skill is legitimate and combat viable. Based on today's evaluation, we're upgrading your rank from F to C. This comes with increased gate access, better compensation rates, and eligibility for guild recruitment. He hands over a new ID card, still warm from the printer. Congratulations, Kang SSI. Most hunters never see a rank increase after their initial awakening. Whatever you did to trigger this, keep doing it. Min-Jae takes the card with genuine relief flooding through him. C-rank. He's C-rank now. It's not S-rank or even B-rank, but it's a universe away from the F-rank loser he was yesterday. Inspector Han walks him to the elevator, and just before the doors close, she leans in close. I meant what I said yesterday. Be careful. Your shadow. She pauses, choosing her words precisely. It's stronger than you showed today. I don't know by how much, and I don't need to know. But others will try to find out. Keep your head down, take appropriate contracts, and don't give the association reason to investigate further. The elevator doors close on her knowing expression, and Min-Jae is left staring at his reflection in the polished metal. His shadow stands beside him in the reflection, and for just a moment, just a split second, its reflection shows something different. Taller, more defined, more powerful than what he showed the evaluators. Then it's gone, returning to the careful disguise they've crafted. We did it, Min-Jae whispers to his shadow. We're in. The shadow doesn't respond, but Min-Jae feels a wave of cold satisfaction emanating from the darkness at his feet. They passed the test. They fooled the association. And now, with his new C-rank status, doors that were locked for 3 years are suddenly opening. The first thing Min-Jae does with his new rank is check the available contracts board. It's a completely different experience from the morning briefings where he used to beg for scraps. C-rank hunters get digital access, priority notifications, and actual choices. His phone buzzes with opportunities within an hour of leaving the association. 3 guild recruitment offers, 2 party invitations for B-rank gate raids, and 6 solo contracts for C-rank dungeons with payouts that make his previous earnings look like pocket change. He accepts a solo C-rank contract immediately, a goblin fortress that appeared in an industrial complex in Incheon. The payout is 3 million won, 6 times what he made clearing that first F-rank gate. But more importantly, it's a chance to let his shadow feed properly without the pretense of holding back. The Goblin Fortress is everything Min-Jae hoped for. It's a proper dungeon with multiple levels, actual strategy required, and approximately 50 goblins ranging from normal variants to a hobgoblin boss on the top floor. The association brief estimates a 4-person party needed for safe clearance. Min-Jae walks in alone at sunset, when most hunters are off duty, and his shadow is practically vibrating with anticipation. No holding back this time, Min-Jae says as the dungeon gate closes behind them. Show me what you can really do. His shadow doesn't need to be told twice. It explodes from the ground like a tidal wave of darkness, its form expanding to 3 times its normal size. The careful, measured construct from the evaluation is gone, replaced by something primordial and hungry. The first floor of goblins doesn't stand a chance. Min-Jae's shadow flows across the ceiling, the walls, the floor, attacking from every angle simultaneously. It's not fighting anymore, it's hunting, and the difference is terrifying. Goblins die so fast their death screams overlap into a chorus of terror. The shadow splits into multiple forms now, a skill it developed recently, creating semi-independent copies that coordinate like a pack of wolves. Min-Jae watches from a safe distance, his sword still sheathed, completely unnecessary. His shadow has evolved beyond needing his participation. It's become a one-entity army, and these C-rank monsters are just food for its endless hunger. The second floor falls in under 3 minutes. The third floor, which contains the elite goblin guards, lasts maybe 4. By the time they reach the hobgoblin boss, Min-Jae's shadow has grown noticeably larger. It stands at 7 feet tall now, broader in the shoulders, more defined in its features. The void eyes have gained a faint inner glow, like distant stars burning in empty space. The hobgoblin, a monster that should require careful strategy and coordinated attacks, takes one look at the approaching shadow and does something Min-Jae has never seen a dungeon boss do before. It tries to surrender. The hobgoblin drops its massive club, holds up both hands, and backs away while making submissive grunting sounds. It's terrified. A C-rank boss monster is terrified of his shadow. Min-Jae feels a surge of dark satisfaction at the sight, the same emotion his shadow radiates constantly. This is power. Real power. The kind that makes enemies break before the fight even starts. Can we spare it? Min-Jae asks, more curious than merciful. His shadow tilts its head, considering the trembling hobgoblin. It has essence I need, the shadow says, its voice deeper and more resonant than before. But you are the master. If you wish it to live, it lives. The casual acknowledgement of Min-Jae's authority surprises him. Despite growing stronger, despite developing intelligence and personality, the shadow still defers to him in critical decisions. It's a reminder that whatever their relationship is, it's not simple possession or parasitism. They're partners, bound by something neither fully understands. Kill it quickly, Min-Jae decides. Mercy is a luxury he can't afford, not when every point of essence makes them stronger. The shadow strikes like lightning, a single blade thrust through the hobgoblin's skull, death so fast the creature probably didn't feel it. The essence absorption is visible this time, streams of dark energy flowing from the corpse into the shadow's form, making it shimmer and pulse with accumulated power. The dungeon clear notification appears in Min-Jae's status window, along with a flood of experience points that push him from level 15 to level 18 in one go. His stats increase across the board, small increments that add up to noticeable improvement. But more importantly, there's a new notification flashing urgently. Shadow manifestation has reached level 5. New ability unlocked, Shadow Domain. Min-Jae pulls up the skill description with hands that shake slightly from adrenaline. Shadow Domain allows his shadow to create a territory of darkness within a 50-meter radius, inside which it gains enhanced power and can manipulate the environment. Enemies within the domain experience reduced vision, slowed movement, and constant psychological pressure. Duration depends on mana consumption. Current maximum duration, 10 minutes. Did you know about this? Min-Jae asks his shadow. The shadow's form ripples with something that might be satisfaction. I felt it coming. Every evolution brings new capabilities. The more I consume, the more I become. It looks at its own hands, flexing fingers that now end in natural claws. Soon I will be B rank. Then A rank. And eventually. It doesn't finish the sentence, but Min-Jae understands. Eventually, his shadow wants to reach S rank, the pinnacle of hunter power where individuals can rival entire guilds. They emerge from the dungeon as the sun fully sets, painting Seoul's skyline in shades of orange and purple. Min-Jae collects his 3 million won payment from the automated terminal, and for the first time in 3 years, he doesn't immediately calculate how many days of food this represents. 3 million won is a safety net. It's breathing room. It's the beginning of actual financial stability. His phone buzzes with a new message. It's from a number he doesn't recognize, but the sender identifies themselves immediately. Kang Min-Jae SSI, this is Baek Seo-jun from the Crimson Phoenix Guild. I saw your re-evaluation results. We're always looking for talented C-rank hunters with unique abilities. Would you be interested in meeting to discuss membership? The Crimson Phoenix Guild. Min-Jae knows the name. Everyone knows the name. They're a mid-tier guild, ranked 15th in South Korea, specializing in rapid dungeon clears and equipment trading. Not one of the massive guilds like Heaven's Arena or the Steel Brotherhood, but respectable, established, legitimate. A guild membership would mean steady income, better equipment access, and the backing of an organization if things go wrong. It would also mean scrutiny. Guild members raid together, train together, live in each other's pockets. Hiding his shadow's true nature would become exponentially harder. But refusing could also draw attention. A newly promoted C-rank hunter turning down guild offers might seem suspicious, might make people wonder what he's hiding. Min-Jae types a careful response. Thank you for the interest. I'd be happy to meet and discuss the opportunity. He hits send before he can second-guess himself, then looks at his shadow, which has returned to its normal two-dimensional position. We're going to need to be even more careful now. Guilds mean politics, hierarchy, and people watching our every move. The shadow doesn't respond immediately, but Min-Jae feels its attention focused on something in the distance. We are being watched now, it says quietly. Someone strong. Following us since we left the dungeon. Min-Jae's blood runs cold. He resists the urge to look around, instead activating his status window and checking for tracking debuffs or marking skills. Nothing shows up, but that doesn't mean much. High-level hunters have ways of surveillance that don't register on standard detection. Can you tell who? Min-Jae asks, pretending to check his phone while his shadow extends its senses. B rank minimum, the shadow reports. Maybe higher. They're suppressing their presence, but I can feel the weight of their mana. They've been following for 6 blocks. This is bad. This is exactly the kind of attention Inspector Han warned him about. Min-Jae makes a split-second decision. He heads toward the nearest subway station, a public place with cameras and crowds. If someone's going to confront him, better it happens where there are witnesses and legal protections. The subway platform is moderately crowded with the evening rush, salary workers heading home, students with their phones out, the normal chaos of Seoul's transportation system. Min-Jae positions himself near a pillar, back to the wall, and waits. His shadow tenses beneath his feet, ready to manifest at a moment's notice. 3 minutes pass. 5. Then a man in an expensive black coat steps out of the crowd and approaches directly. He's probably in his late 30s, with silver-streaked hair and the kind of casual confidence that comes from knowing you're the most dangerous person in the room. Kang Min-Jae, the man says, not a question, just a statement. I'm Taeyang, A-rank hunter, independent operator. He doesn't offer to shake hands, just studies Min-Jae with eyes that see way too much. I was hired to investigate the unauthorized dungeon clears around Seoul. Imagine my surprise when I found out it was a recently promoted C-rank with a manifestation ability. Min-Jae's mouth goes dry. An A-rank hunter. Someone 3 full ranks above him. Someone who could probably kill him before his shadow could fully manifest. I wasn't aware those dungeons were under investigation, Min-Jae says carefully. I cleared them before my re-evaluation, when I was still figuring out my new ability. Taeyong nods slowly, like he expected that answer. That's what the official report will say. That a hunter discovered a new skill, practiced with it, then properly registered and got re-evaluated. Clean, simple, no problems. He leans in slightly, and Min-Jae can feel the pressure of his mana, like standing too close to a furnace. But we both know that's not the whole truth, don't we? Before Min-Jae can respond, his shadow moves. It doesn't manifest, doesn't attack, just shifts position slightly, placing itself between Min-Jae and Taeyong in the only way a two-dimensional shadow can. It's a protective gesture, subtle but unmistakable. Taeyong's eyes widen fractionally, then he smiles. It's not a friendly smile. Interesting, Taeyong says softly. Your shadow moved defensively without a command. Manifestation abilities don't do that. They're tools, weapons, skills. They don't have instincts. He straightens up, hands in his coat pockets, posture relaxed but ready. So either you're a savant with unconscious ability control, or that shadow of yours is something else entirely. The subway platform suddenly feels very small and very exposed. Min-Jae can feel his shadow wanting to manifest, wanting to fight, wanting to eliminate this threat to their secret. He squashes that urge with all his mental strength. Fighting an A-rank hunter in public would end with Min-Jae dead or imprisoned, possibly both. It's a manifestation skill, Min-Jae insists. Sometimes it reacts to my emotional state. Fear, stress, it can trigger defensive responses. This is actually true for some high-level manifestation abilities, though usually only at A rank or above. Taeyong considers this explanation, and Min-Jae can practically see him deciding whether to push further or let it go. Here's what's going to happen, Taeyong finally says. You're going to join a guild, preferably Crimson Phoenix since they already reached out. You're going to do official raids, pay your taxes, and generally act like a normal C-rank hunter climbing the ranks. He pulls out a business card and hands it to Min-Jae. And if your shadow ever does anything that crosses the line from unusual to dangerous, you're going to call me immediately. Because I'd much rather help you control it than be forced to put you down. Understood? Min-Jae takes the card with numb fingers. Taeyong's position is clear. He suspects something is wrong, but he's willing to give Min-Jae a chance as long as he stays within acceptable boundaries. It's more mercy than Min-Jae expected from an A-rank investigator. Understood, Min-Jae manages to say. Taeyong nods once, then turns and walks back into the subway crowd, disappearing like he was never there. Min-Jae stands frozen for a long moment, processing what just happened. His shadow eventually returns to its normal position, the tension slowly draining away. That was dangerous, the shadow says, and there's something new in its voice. Respect, maybe, or caution. He is strong. Much stronger than the inspector. If we fought him now, we would lose. Min-Jae appreciates the honesty even as it terrifies him. His shadow, this being that can solo C-rank dungeons without breaking a sweat, admits it would lose to Taeyong. That's the gap between C-rank and A-rank. That's how far they still have to climb. The meeting with Crimson Phoenix Guild happens 3 days later, in a high-rise office building in Gangnam that screams corporate success. Baek Seo-jun turns out to be the guild's recruitment director, a cheerful B-rank hunter in his 40s with the kind of sales pitch that's been refined through years of practice. He takes Min-Jae through the standard guild benefits package, steady income, equipment discounts, party finder services, legal protection, and access to guild-exclusive dungeons. We've been tracking rising C-ranks, Baek says as he pulls up Min-Jae's file on his tablet. Your manifestation ability is exactly the kind of versatile skill we look for. How would you feel about joining one of our standard raid teams? We run B-rank dungeons twice a week, C-rank dailies, and occasional A-rank raids when we can partner with stronger guilds. Min-Jae considers the offer carefully. Guild membership would provide cover for his activities and explain his income growth. But it also means performance expectations and regular interaction with other hunters. What's the contract length, he asks. Beck smiles like he expected the question. Standard is 2 years with a 6-month probation period. During probation, either party can terminate without penalty. After that, there's a buyout clause if you want to leave early, but it's negotiable. He leans back in his chair. We're not trying to trap anyone, Min-Jae SSI. We want hunters who want to be here. What do you think? The 2-year commitment feels like a lifetime, but the 6-month probation is acceptable. Min-Jae signs the contract that afternoon, and just like that, he's a guild member. Crimson Phoenix assigns him to Team 7, a standard 4-person raid group led by a B-rank hunter named Choi Min-seo. His teammates are 2 other C-ranks, Young Hae-won and Park Ki-jun, both of whom have been with the guild for over a year. His first official guild raid is a C-rank dungeon in Busan, a 3-hour trip that the guild pays for. Team 7 meets at the train station at dawn, and Min-Jae gets his first real look at his new party members. Choi Min-seo is a woman in her early 30s, serious and professional, with dual swords strapped to her back. Young Hae-won is a mage type, younger, maybe 24, with the nervous energy of someone who lives on coffee and energy drinks. Park Ki-jun is a tank, built like a brick wall, quiet but friendly. So you're the manifestation user, Min-seo says as they board the train. We haven't had one of those in our rotation before. How much combat can your manifestation handle independently? This is the question Min-Jae has been dreading. How much to show, how much to hide, how to be useful without being suspicious. It can handle C-rank enemies solo, Min-Jae says carefully. Against B-rank, it needs support. It's best used for crowd control or eliminating weak targets while the main party focuses on priority threats. This is a massive understatement of his shadow's actual capabilities, but it positions him as a useful support member rather than a potential star player. The Busan dungeon is an underwater cave system, flooded tunnels filled with mutated crabs and the occasional barracuda variant. It's the kind of environment where Min-Jae's shadow should theoretically struggle. Water and darkness don't mix well for most manifestation abilities. But his shadow is delighted. Water just means more surfaces to travel through, more angles of attack, more places to hide before striking. Team 7 works well together. Min-seo takes point with her dual swords, Ki-jun provides defense and draws aggro, Hae-won handles long-range magic support, and Min-Jae's shadow picks off stragglers and prevents the party from being surrounded. It's efficient, professional, and honestly kind of boring compared to his solo raids. But it's also safe, legal, and exactly the kind of normal hunter activity that keeps investigators like Taeyong satisfied. They clear the dungeon in 4 hours, splitting the loot according to guild percentages. Min-Jae's cut is 1.2 million won, less than a solo clear but more stable and predictable. As they're packing up equipment, Min-seo approaches him with an appraising look. Your manifestation is impressive, she says. Better control than most C-ranks I've worked with. How long did you say you've had this ability? The question sounds casual, but Min-Jae recognizes the underlying assessment. Min-seo is evaluating him, trying to figure out where he fits in the team hierarchy. About a month, Min-Jae answers truthfully. It's still developing. I'm learning new applications every week. This is also true, just not in the way Min-seo thinks. She nods, apparently satisfied with the answer. Keep training with it. Manifestation abilities are rare enough that if you can push it to B-rank capability, you'll be valuable enough for the guild to invest in your promotion. She claps him on the shoulder. Welcome to Team 7, Min-Jae. Try not to die. The next 2 months fall into a pattern. 3 guild raids per week, providing steady income and maintaining his cover as a normal rising hunter. But on the nights between raids, when his teammates are resting or socializing, Min-Jae and his shadow hunt for real. They seek out the most dangerous unregistered gates they can find, the ones that appear in abandoned areas where no one will notice or care. Min-Jae's level climbs to 24. His shadow reaches B-rank combat capability, then pushes into high B-rank territory. The shadow domain ability evolves, expanding to a 100-meter radius and gaining new effects. Inside the domain, his shadow can now create semi-solid constructs, walls of darkness that block attacks, tendrils that ensnare enemies, even crude weapons for Min-Jae to use when necessary. But with power comes complications. Other hunters start noticing Min-Jae's rapid improvement. During guild raids, he has to deliberately make mistakes, hold back, let his shadow take damage it could easily avoid. It's frustrating for both of them, like a sprinter being forced to jog when they could run. The shadow starts complaining about the restrictions, its voice carrying an edge of resentment when they practice holding back. "Why do we pretend weakness?" the shadow asks one night after a particularly boring guild raid. "We could clear these dungeons alone. We could be famous, respected, feared." It manifests fully, standing at its now permanent 7-foot height, eyes glowing with accumulated power. "You wanted strength. I have given you strength. Yet still we hide." Min-Jae understands the frustration because he feels it too. But he also remembers Taeyang's warning and Inspector Han's concern. "We hide because revealing our true strength makes us a target," he explains. The association doesn't like unknowns. Strong guilds eliminate competition. If we show everyone what we can do, we'll be fighting A-rank hunters before we're ready. The shadow considers this, then asks a question that chills Min-Jae to his core. "And when we are ready? When I reach A-rank, or S-rank? What happens then?" Min-Jae doesn't have a good answer. He's been so focused on getting stronger, on escaping the pit of F-rank mediocrity, that he hasn't thought about what comes after. What's the end goal? Where does this partnership with his sentient shadow actually lead? Before he can formulate a response, his phone explodes with emergency alerts. A dungeon break. A-rank gate, burst open without clearing, monsters flooding into downtown Seoul. All available hunters report immediately. This is every hunter's nightmare, the scenario that kills hundreds of civilians and makes international news. Min-Jae should stay away. A-rank dungeon breaks are for A-rank hunters and above. A C-rank like him would just be a liability. But his shadow is already manifesting, already moving toward the door with purpose. A-rank essence, it says, and there's hunger in its voice that Min-Jae has never heard before. This is our chance. This is how I evolve further. It looks back at him, void eyes gleaming with desperate want. "Please. Let me hunt." Min-Jae grabs his gear and runs for the door. This is insane. This is suicidal. This is exactly the kind of reckless decision that gets hunters killed and accomplishes nothing. But he spent 3 years being cautious, being weak, being invisible. Maybe it's time to take a risk. Maybe it's time to see exactly how strong they've become. The dungeon break is in Myeongdong, one of Seoul's busiest shopping districts. By the time Min-Jae arrives, the area has been evacuated and hunter teams are establishing a perimeter. The gate itself is massive, a tear in reality 15 meters tall, and pouring out of it are creatures that shouldn't exist outside of A-rank dungeons. Ogres with stone clubs bigger than cars. Wyverns circling overhead breathing poison gas. And something moving in the shadows of the gate itself, something large enough that Min-Jae can only see pieces of it. The hunter response is organized chaos. 2 major guilds have sent teams, Heaven's Arena and Steel Brotherhood, along with a dozen independent A-rank hunters. They're coordinating through the association's emergency network, establishing kill zones and evacuation routes. Min-Jae spots Taeyang near the command post, along with other A-ranks he recognizes from news coverage. No one notices one C-rank hunter in basic gear taking position in a side alley. No one is watching the shadows as they start to move with purpose. Min-Jae's shadow extends outward, flowing through the darkness cast by buildings and overturned cars, heading toward the combat zone. It's excited, practically vibrating with anticipation. This is real combat against real threats. This is what it was made for. An ogre breaks through the hunter line, smashing aside 2 B-rank fighters like their children. It's heading straight for an evacuation bus that's stuck in traffic, full of civilians who couldn't get away fast enough. The A-rank hunters are too far away, engaged with other threats. No one is in position to intercept. Min-Jae's shadow moves faster than thought. It erupts from the ground beneath the ogre, tendrils of solid darkness wrapping around the monster's legs, arms, throat. The ogre roars in confusion and rage, trying to shake off this unexpected attacker. The shadow doesn't give it a chance. It manifests fully, rising to meet the 12-foot-tall ogre at eye level, and drives blade arms through the monster's skull with surgical precision. The ogre drops dead, and several hunters turn to see what happened. They see the dead A-rank monster and a manifestation ability standing over it, but they don't see Min-Jae hiding in the alley 50 meters away. For just a moment, his shadow is mistaken for an independent entity, an A-rank hunter summon that came to help. Then it sinks back into 2 dimensions and flows back toward Min-Jae before anyone can investigate further. More, the shadow demands, drunk on the power of killing something that should have been impossible. There are more. Let me hunt them all. Min-Jae wants to say yes. Every instinct, every ambition, every resentful memory of being weak is screaming at him to unleash his shadow completely, to let it rampage through the dungeon break and prove to everyone that he's not worthless anymore. But that path leads to exposure, investigation, and probably imprisonment when they figure out his shadow is not a normal ability. Min-Jae forces himself to think tactically. One ogre kill can be explained as luck or a stronger hunter's doing. Multiple A-rank kills would draw attention they can't afford. We need to leave, Min-Jae says, fighting against his own desires. This was too close. Someone might have tracked your essence signature back to me. The shadow resists, physically straining against Min-Jae's will for the first time since they partnered. It wants to stay, wants to fight, wants to consume and grow stronger. But ultimately, it defers to Min-Jae's decision, sinking back into its normal shadow form with palpable reluctance. They're 3 blocks away when Min-Jae's phone rings. It's Baek Seo-jun from Crimson Phoenix. Min-Jae, are you anywhere near Myeongdong? We just got a report of something unusual during the dungeon break. Someone or something killed an A-rank ogre in seconds, but no one is taking credit. The energy signature was similar to a manifestation ability. Your manifestation ability. Min-Jae's blood turns to ice. They tracked it. Someone at the scene had enough analytical capability to trace his shadow's essence signature despite the chaos. He needs a cover story immediately. I was in the area when the break happened, he says, keeping his voice steady through sheer force of will. My shadow killed something during the evacuation, but I thought it was just a stray B-rank. The situation was too chaotic to see clearly. There's a long pause on the other end. Min-Jae, the monster you killed was confirmed A-rank. An ogre variant, combat rating equivalent to a high-level A-rank hunter. Baek's voice is careful, neutral, giving nothing away. That's significantly above what a C-rank manifestation should be capable of. Min-Jae closes his eyes, mind racing through his options. He can deny everything, claim mistaken identity. He can run, disappear into Seoul's underground and abandon his hunter registration. Or he can lean into it, accept the scrutiny, and try to control the narrative. My ability has been growing faster than expected, he finally says. I wasn't sure how to report it because the re-evaluations are expensive and time-consuming. I was planning to wait until I had more concrete evidence of improvement. Another pause. Then Baek says something that changes everything again. Min-Jae, I'm going to recommend you for an emergency re-evaluation. Based on that ogre kill, you're probably B-rank now, maybe high B-rank. That's guild investment territory. We're going to want to test you properly, see what you're really capable of. His tone shifts, becomes more excited. This could be huge for both of us. A hunter jumping from F rank to B rank in 3 months. That's media gold. That's sponsorship opportunities. That's exactly the kind of success story Crimson Phoenix needs. Min-Jae realizes with growing dread that he's about to become famous. Not quietly strong, not secretly powerful, but publicly, unavoidably famous. And fame means attention. Attention means investigation. Investigation means someone eventually figuring out that his shadow is not an ability, it's a person, a thinking being with its own agenda and unlimited growth potential. When's the reevaluation? Min-Jae asks, because what else can he say? Refusing would be even more suspicious. Baek's enthusiasm is palpable through the phone. Tomorrow morning, priority scheduling. The association wants to verify the ogre kill ASAP. Where's something nice, there might be reporters. The call ends, and Min-Jae stands alone in a Seoul alley, his shadow stretching long in the streetlights, and realizes they've reached a turning point. There's no going back to anonymity. There's no more hiding in the margins. Tomorrow, everyone will be watching them. And they'll have to perform a miracle of deception to convince the association that they're just a normal, exceptional hunter with a powerful but ultimately controllable ability. Tomorrow we show them strength, his shadow says from the darkness. But not all our strength. Never all our strength. Not until we're ready to show them everything. Min-Jae nods, even though there's no one to see it. They've been building toward this moment since that first F-rank dungeon where his shadow woke up. Now they have to prove they're strong enough to deserve attention, but not so strong that they become a threat to be eliminated. It's a knife's edge to walk, and one wrong step means destruction. But Min-Jae has been walking knife edges his entire hunter career. What's one more impossible balance when he's already accomplished so many? The morning of his re-evaluation, Min-Jae barely sleeps. He practices with his shadow until 3 a.m., working out exactly how much power to reveal, exactly what level of capability will satisfy the association without triggering containment protocols. His shadow, to its credit, understands the stakes. It practices restraint, practices looking impressive but not impossible, practices being a weapon instead of a warrior. The testing center is packed when he arrives. Baek wasn't kidding about reporters. There are camera crews from 3 major hunter networks, journalists with recording equipment, and what looks like representatives from at least 5 other major guilds. Min-Jae spots him Taeyong in the observation area, arms crossed, watching with those 2 knowing eyes. Inspector Han is there too, her expression unreadable. Senior evaluator Kim is running the assessment again, but this time his entire demeanor is different. No more skepticism, no more dismissive looks. Min-Jae is a potential B-rank hunter now, possibly the fastest rank climber in Korean hunter history. That demands respect, even if grudgingly given. Kang Min-Jae, Kim announces for the cameras. 3 months ago, you tested as a newly awakened C-rank manifestation user. Yesterday, you allegedly killed an A-rank ogre during the Myeongdong dungeon break. Today, we determine your true capabilities. He gestures to the testing arena, which has been upgraded significantly from last time. We'll be running combat scenarios against simulated B-rank and A-rank opponents. Show us what you can do. Min-Jae steps into the arena, and his shadow follows. They've agreed on the strategy, demonstrate clear B-rank power, show hints of possible A-rank potential, but maintain the appearance that Min-Jae is still in control, still the master of his ability. The first test is a simulated B-rank troll, a holographic construct with real physical impact capability. His shadow kills it in under 10 seconds. Not instantly, that would be too suspicious, but efficiently, brutally, with the kind of combat excellence that makes the observers lean forward with interest. The second test is 2 B-rank trolls simultaneously. His shadow splits into 2 semi-independent forms and handles them separately. Execution time, 18 seconds. The third test is an A-rank simulation, a dragon variant with aerial combat capability and fire breath. This is where Min-Jae and his shadow have to be careful. They can't fail, that would undermine the entire re-evaluation. But they can't succeed too easily either. They need to make it look difficult, make it look like they're being pushed to their limits. The shadow manifests fully, standing at its 7-foot height, eyes glowing with accumulated power. The simulated dragon attacks with fire breath, and the shadow activates shadow domain. Darkness explodes outward, covering the entire arena floor, creating a territory where his shadow has absolute advantage. Inside the domain, the shadow can move instantaneously, can attack from any angle, can create constructs and barriers at will. The fight lasts 3 minutes. Long enough to look challenging, short enough to prove capability. The shadow takes calculated hits, shows strain, makes it appear like the dragon is a genuine threat. Then, at the 2-minute 45-second mark, it surges upward on a pillar of solid darkness and drives both blade arms through the dragon's skull. The simulation dissolves, and the arena falls silent. Senior evaluator Kim's expression is something Min-Jae has never seen before. It's awe. Pure, unfiltered awe at what he just witnessed. Kim turns to analyst Park, who's frantically recording data on her tablet. Combat rating, he asks. Park's fingers are shaking slightly as she reads the results. B rank, high tier. Approaching low A rank in optimal conditions. She looks up at Min-Jae, and there's something in her eyes that might be fear or might be excitement. His manifestation ability has grown exponentially. Current projection suggests he could reach genuine A-rank combat capability within 6 months to a year. The observation area erupts in murmured conversation. Guild representatives are already pulling out phones, calling headquarters, adjusting recruitment offers. Min-Jae spots Tae-young, who's not murmuring or making calls. He's just watching, eyes locked on Min-Jae's shadow, which has returned to its normal position at his feet. Their eyes meet across the arena, and Min-Jae sees the message clearly: I know you held back. I know this isn't everything. Be very, very careful. The official announcement comes an hour later, broadcast live across every hunter network in South Korea. Kang Min-Jae, formerly F rank, now officially classified as B rank with projected A rank potential. The announcement includes footage of his dragon simulation kill, slowed down and analyzed from multiple angles. Within 2 hours, he's trending on social media. Within 4 hours, his guild contract has been renegotiated with a signing bonus that makes his previous 3 years of earnings look like pocket change. But none of that matters to Min-Jae as much as the private meeting that happens after all the cameras are gone. He's escorted to a secure conference room where Tae-young, Inspector Han, and 3 other people he doesn't recognize are waiting. The atmosphere is tense, professional, and unmistakably serious. Sit down, Kang SSI, Tae-young says, and it's not a request. Min-Jae sits. His shadow remains perfectly still beneath him, two-dimensional, giving nothing away. Tae-young places a folder on the table between them. We've been tracking anomalies in the hunter system for 6 months. Unregistered gates clearing themselves. Energy signatures that don't match known ability types. And now you, jumping from the bottom rank to near rank in 3 months. Inspector Han leans forward. We're not here to arrest you or shut you down. But we need to understand what we're dealing with. Your ability is unprecedented. Manifestations don't grow this fast. They don't show this level of autonomous behavior. They don't. She pauses, choosing her words carefully. They don't feel alive. Min-Jae's mouth goes dry. This is it. The moment where his secret either stays buried or explodes into something he can't control. He looks down at his shadow, and he swears he can feel it holding its breath despite not having lungs. What do you want to know? He asks quietly. One of the other people at the table speaks up, a woman in her 50s with the stern bearing of someone used to authority. I'm Dr. Yoon from the association's research division. We want to study your ability. Not invasively, just observations during controlled exercises. We want to understand how it's growing so rapidly and whether this growth pattern represents a new category of awakened ability. This is better than arrest, better than containment, but it still means scrutiny they can't afford. Min-Jae is about to refuse when his shadow does something unexpected. It ripples beneath him, just once, a subtle movement that only he can feel. And through their connection, their bond that he's never fully understood, he feels something from the shadow. Not words exactly, but intent. Acceptance. Agreement. His shadow wants this. I'll cooperate with observations, Min-Jae says slowly, but I have conditions. No invasive testing. No attempts to separate me from my ability. And everything discovered stays classified unless I give permission to publish. He meets Dr. Yoon's eyes with more confidence than he feels. I'm not a lab rat. I'm a hunter who's trying to survive in a system that almost destroyed me. The room is quiet for a long moment. Then Im Taeyong nods. Fair conditions. We agree. He stands, extending his hand for the first time. Welcome to the big leagues, Kang Min-Jae. Try not to make me regret giving you this chance. Min-Jae shakes his hand, and the meeting ends. As he's leaving the building, his shadow finally speaks, its voice carrying a tone he's never heard before. Something like respect, maybe even pride. You handled that well. You're learning to navigate their politics, their fears. We're not just growing stronger. We're growing smarter. The next 6 months are a whirlwind that Min-Jae could never have imagined during his F-rank days. Guild raids become routine, B-rank dungeons that once seemed impossible now feel manageable. His team, Team 7, treats him differently now. Not quite with awe, but with the respect due to someone carrying them through content they'd normally struggle with. Min-Seo even recommends him for team leader training. The observation sessions with Dr. Yoon happen twice a week. She watches his shadow manifest, measures its energy output, documents its growth. She's brilliant and thorough, but she's also looking at data, not seeing the truth. She sees a rapidly evolving ability, unusual but ultimately explicable through new awakening theories. She doesn't see the intelligence burning behind those void eyes, the personality developing with each passing day. Min-Jae's shadow continues to evolve. It reaches full A-rank combat capability, then pushes beyond. New abilities emerge. Shadow cloning, creating up to 5 independent copies that can operate simultaneously. Shadow arsenal, manifesting weapons of pure darkness with properties that shift based on need. And most impressively, shadow consciousness, the ability to remain manifested even when Min-Jae is unconscious or incapacitated. That last ability terrifies Dr. Yoon when she discovers it during a test. An ability that can act independently of its user's consciousness shouldn't exist. It violates fundamental rules about how awakened powers work. But it does exist, and there's nothing the association can do about it except document it and hope Min-Jae remains cooperative. During this time, Min-Jae learns something crucial about his shadow. It's not just growing stronger. It's growing as a person. It develops preferences, likes and dislikes, opinions about the people they encounter. It starts referring to itself as I, instead of just an extension of Min-Jae. And late one night, during a particularly difficult A-rank raid, it asks Min-Jae a question that changes everything. Do I have a name? The shadow asks as they rest between combat phases. You are Min-Jae. But what am I? Just shadow? Just the manifestation? There's vulnerability in the question, a desire for identity that Min-Jae recognizes because he spent 3 years being nobody, just another faceless F-rank. Min-Jae thinks about this carefully. Naming his shadow makes it more real, more independent, more undeniably alive. But denying it a name feels cruel, like refusing to acknowledge its personhood. What do you want to be called? He asks. The shadow is quiet for a long time. Then, Yun. It means connection or relationship. That's what we are. Connected. I am Yun, and I am part of you, but I am also myself. From that moment on, Min-Jae stops thinking of his ability as a skill or tool. Yun is his partner, his companion in a world that's been hostile to both of them. And together, they're unstoppable. Their reputation grows. The hunter who rose from F rank to A rank in under a year. The manifestation user with unprecedented growth potential. Job offers flood in from major guilds, but Min-Jae stays with Crimson Phoenix out of loyalty to Baek Seo-jun, who took a chance on him when he was still C-rank and unknown. But with fame comes danger. Not all hunters are happy about Min-Jae's rapid rise. Some see him as a threat to their position. Others suspect him of using illegal enhancement items or forbidden techniques. And a few simply hate him for succeeding where they've plateaued. The attack comes during a routine B-rank raid. Min-Jae and Team 7 are clearing a dungeon in Daegu when another party enters through the same gate. It's a violation of dungeon protocols, parties aren't supposed to overlap without coordination. But these hunters aren't here for the dungeon. They're here for Min-Jae. There are 6 of them, all B-rank, all wearing unmarked armor that hides their identities. They attack without warning, without explanation, just pure murderous intent. Min Seo tries to intervene, but she's knocked aside by a blast of ice magic. Hae-won goes down to a poison dart. Ki-jun manages to block one attacker but 3 more flow around him. Yun manifests instantly, erupting from Min-Jae's shadow with a rage he's never felt from his partner before. These attackers aren't dungeon monsters. They're humans, hunters, people who should know better. But they're trying to kill Min-Jae, and Yun won't allow that. Not ever. The fight is brutal and short. Yun doesn't kill the attackers, not quite, but he comes terrifyingly close. Broken bones, ruptured organs, trauma that will take weeks of healing magic to fix. By the time association backup arrives, all 6 attackers are unconscious and Yun is standing over them like a demon from hell, eyes blazing with barely controlled fury. The investigation reveals the attack was paid for by a rival guild, one that saw Min-Jae as a threat to their market position. The attackers are arrested, the rival guild is sanctioned, and Min-Jae is cleared of any wrongdoing. But the incident leaves scars that go deeper than physical wounds. They will keep coming, Yun says that night, manifested fully in Min-Jae's apartment. As long as we appear weak enough to attack, someone will try. We need to become so strong that no one dares. His voice carries a cold determination that Min-Jae has never heard before. We need to reach S rank. Not in secret. Not hiding. We need everyone to know that attacking us means death. Min-Jae understands the logic, but he also understands the cost. S-rank hunters are on a different level entirely. There are only 47 of them in all of South Korea. They're national assets, political pieces, individuals who can change the outcome of wars. Becoming S-rank means giving up any remaining privacy, any chance at a normal life. It means living under constant surveillance and pressure. But what choice do they have? Stay A rank and keep getting attacked? Retire and lose everything they've built? No. The only path forward is up. Always up. The S-rank evaluation test is announced 6 months later. It happens once a year, and only hunters who've been A rank for at least 12 months are eligible. Min-Jae barely qualifies, having been officially A rank for exactly 13 months. The test takes place in a specially constructed dungeon, one designed by the association to push even the strongest hunters to their absolute limits. Only 5 hunters are attempting the evaluation this year. Min-Jae is the youngest by a decade, the least experienced by far. The others are veteran A ranks from major guilds, people who've been preparing for this test their entire careers. Min-Jae has been a hunter for less than 4 years total. The test begins at dawn. The artificial dungeon has 50 floors, each one progressively more difficult. Floor 1 contains enemies equivalent to high B-rank monsters. By floor 10, they're low A rank. By floor 20, they're high A rank. And floors 30 through 50 contain enemies that would require multiple A rank hunters working together to defeat. The rule is simple: reach floor 50 and defeat the final boss within 24 hours. No external help, no resupply, just you and whatever abilities you bring. 4 of the 5 candidates fail before floor 30. They're strong, incredibly strong, but not strong enough. The dungeons are designed to be nearly impossible because S rank isn't about being good. It's about being exceptional. Min-Jae reaches floor 40 with Yun's help, fighting through progressively more nightmarish monsters. His stats have climbed dramatically over the past year. Strength at 48, agility at 52, intelligence at 45, mana capacity at 73. But numbers don't tell the full story. His real strength is Yun, who's evolved beyond anything the association could have predicted. Floor 40 contains a Hydra, a mythical creature that shouldn't exist outside of S-rank dungeons. It has 9 heads, regeneration that makes it nearly unkillable, and poison breath that melts steel. Min-Jae and Yun fight it for 3 hours, the longest single combat of Min-Jae's career. They win through adaptation and persistence, with Yun learning mid-battle that he can absorb the Hydra's poison and convert it into his own weapon. Floors 41 through 49 are a blur of exhaustion and adrenaline. Min-Jae is running on fumes, his mana reserves nearly depleted despite potions and rest periods. But Yun is somehow getting stronger, feeding on the essence of every defeated enemy, growing more solid and more powerful with each floor cleared. Floor 50 opens onto an arena lit by artificial stars. The final boss is waiting in the center. It's not a monster. It's a shadow construct, similar to Yun but larger, more refined, created by the association's best mages to represent the ultimate challenge. It's what Yun could become with unlimited growth and no moral constraints. The fight lasts 10 minutes. Min-Jae doesn't participate except to provide mana support. This is Yun's battle, shadow against shadow, manifestation against manifestation. They're evenly matched in power, but Yun has something the construct doesn't. Experience. Personality. The will to protect someone he cares about. Yun wins by absorbing his opponent, literally consuming the shadow construct and integrating its essence into his own form. When the battle ends, Yun stands transformed. Taller, more defined, with features that are unmistakably his own rather than copies of Min-Jae. He looks almost human now, except for the void eyes and the way shadows cling to him like living things. The notification appears in Min-Jae's status window, glowing with golden light. Evaluation complete. Rank, S. Congratulations, Hunter Kang Min-Jae. You are now one of 48 S-rank hunters in the Republic of Korea. The celebration is massive. News coverage, official ceremonies, congratulations from the president himself. Min-Jae is given an apartment in the Hunter district, a salary that makes his previous earnings look like nothing, and access to S-rank exclusive dungeons that can earn millions per run. He's made it. 4 years ago, he was the weakest hunter in the system. Now he's among the strongest humans alive. But the victory feels hollow somehow. Because Min-Jae knows the truth that no one else sees. He didn't reach S-rank through his own power. Yun did. Yun is the real S-rank entity, and Min-Jae is just the human anchor that allows him to exist in this world. Their partnership has always been about Yun's growth, and Min-Jae has been the vessel for that growth. He's thinking about this late one night when Yun manifests without being called, sitting across from Min-Jae in their new apartment. You're wondering if you deserve this, Yun says, and it's not a question. You're wondering if you're really strong or just carried by me. Min-Jae doesn't deny it. I was F rank. The weakest possible rank. If you hadn't awakened, I'd probably be dead in some forgotten dungeon by now. Yun is quiet for a moment, then leans forward, his void eyes somehow conveying earnest emotion. I was nothing. A shadow on the ground, no thoughts, no will, no existence beyond being your silhouette. You gave me consciousness. You gave me purpose. You gave me a name. He reaches out, and his hand, solid and real, clasps Min-Jae's shoulder. We didn't carry each other. We created each other. I am strong because you let me be strong. You are strong because I choose to fight for you. That's what partnership means. The words hit harder than any physical blow. Min-Jae realizes he's been looking at their relationship wrong this entire time. It's not about who's stronger or who's carrying whom. It's about two beings who were nothing alone but became something incredible together. Thank you, Min-Jae says, and he means it more deeply than he's ever meant anything. For waking up. For staying. For becoming who you are. Yun smiles, a genuine expression that lights up his formerly expressionless face. Thank you for letting me exist. For giving me freedom to grow. For treating me like a person instead of a tool. He stands, stretching to his full 8-foot height. Now let's show this world what we can really do. No more hiding. No more pretending. Let's be the strongest together. The epilogue comes 5 years later. Min-Jae is now 31 years old, one of the most respected S-rank hunters in Korea, and a regular presence in international hunter conferences. Yun has evolved into something unprecedented, a shadow entity with power that rivals the strongest hunters on the planet. Their partnership is studied in hunter academies as an example of perfect synchronization between ability and user. But more importantly, they're happy. Min-Jae has friends now, genuine relationships built on mutual respect rather than desperate need. He's financially secure, doing work he finds meaningful, and living a life he once thought impossible. Yun has grown beyond being just a shadow or just an ability. He's recognized as his own entity, given official status by the association as a unique case of sentient manifestation. They're standing on top of Seoul Tower one evening, watching the sun set over the city. The same city where Min-Jae once stumbled through streets with bruises on his face and despair in his heart. So much has changed. Everything has changed. Do you ever regret it? Min-Jae asks quietly. Waking up. Becoming what you are. Being bound to someone who was the weakest hunter alive. Yun doesn't answer immediately. He looks out over Seoul, his form solid against the sunset, shadows dancing around him like old friends. Then he laughs, a sound that's rich and genuine and completely human. Regret? Min-Jae, I was unconscious darkness on the ground. You gave me life. How could I ever regret that? He turns to face Min-Jae directly, and there's warmth in his void eyes that wasn't there 5 years ago. Besides, you were never really weak. You had the strength to keep going when everything told you to quit. That's the rarest power of all. I just gave you the tools to show everyone else what you always had inside. Min-Jae smiles, feeling something release in his chest that he didn't know he was holding. All the insecurity, all the doubt, all the questions about whether he deserved his success. They don't matter anymore. He's earned his place through blood, sweat, and the courage to partner with something impossible. Ready for tomorrow's raid? Min-Jae asks, checking his phone where a notification glows. There's a new S-rank gate that appeared off the coast of Busan, one that's supposed to be impossible for anyone below S-rank to clear. Yun grins, an expression that would terrify anyone who doesn't know him but makes Min-Jae feel completely safe. Always ready. Let's show them why they tell stories about the shadow that learned to think. They disappear into the darkness together, two beings who were nothing alone but became legends together. The weakest hunter who refused to stay weak. And the shadow that became so much more than anyone thought possible. Their story isn't over. It's only just beginning. In a world where monsters crawl from the abyss and humanity clings to survival, there are thousands of hunters with incredible powers. But only one hunter has a shadow that thinks, that fights, that cares. Only one hunter turned his greatest weakness into his greatest strength. And only one shadow learned that being alive means more than just existing in the light. This is their story. The story of Kang Min-Jae and Yun. The hunter and the shadow. Partners. Friends. The duo who proved that sometimes the greatest power isn't found in dungeons or bought with gold. Sometimes it's lurking right beneath your feet, waiting in the darkness you've always taken for granted, ready to wake up and change everything.